Good morning, everyone. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'm Jan Brito with Brito Associates of Compass and Capital Senior Solutions, and my business partner, Laura Quigley, is here. Say hi, Laura.
Hello.
And Jessie Belcher, our licensed assistant, is also with us. She's the brains behind the curtain, like in The Wizard of Oz. So we are speaking to you today about Downsizing Made Easy. It's opportunities like this that allow us to help more people simplify their later in life moves or those who they might be assisting in the process. We sent everybody handouts for you to use to take notes on, and we'll leave time at the end to take questions. And of course, if you have specific questions related to a personal situation, we're happy to talk with you one-on-one about that, set up an appointment later in the week. So again, we're Jan and Laura. We're licensed with Compass in Maryland, DC, and Virginia, and we've been helping individuals and families buying and sell properties for the last 17 years. In the past few years, we've found ourselves working more and more with seniors, so we sought a higher level of education around this topic, and we discovered the Seniors Real Estate Institute out in Oklahoma City. So we spent an entire year going through a very intensive course and became certified senior housing professionals, and also took an extra course to become certified senior housing coaches. We're really committed to this work. We love to help, in particular, this demographic. Having been in the business so long, we all have longtime clients of all ages and continue to work with them, but we're just drawn to this level of service for this segment of the population. It's really fulfilling, and we feel like when we get to that point, want to know there's someone like us that can help us when we get there. So the material we're covering today was written by Dr. Nikki Buckaloo, who's the founder of the Seniors Real Estate Institute. She coaches and trains realtors across the country, and we have also coached with her as well as taken the training. So in the time we have together today, we're going to focus primarily on 5 steps, and know that each one is critical in the downsizing process and having a successful move. Now, by successful, we mean both physically and emotionally, because this is a really trying, emotional, overwhelming time for most people, no matter how young you are in the downsizing process. But with the right planning and support, it can be overwhelming. I mean, it can be anything but overwhelming. You'll hopefully be overjoyed, not overwhelmed. So Laura, I'll let you take it away.
All right. Well, so the first question is, why downsize? Why move at all? And while there are many personal reasons why someone chooses to sell a home and move into a more manageable living arrangement, there are 3 primary reasons why most people choose to downsize or find it necessary. The first is social engagement. We've all seen through COVID how hard it can be to be socially isolated, to be in our homes. And studies have shown that people who stay active socially and intellectually tend to live longer, healthier, more satisfying lives. So when you talk to people who are active, they'll tell you the reason that they are healthy at 83, 93, 103 is that they have stayed active. They have stayed engaged. And even if they have retired, they've continued to find ways to stay engaged. Living in an environment that supports interaction makes it easier and more manageable to become socially engaged. The second reason is the house becomes a burden. And I love this phrase because I think I'm living it personally right now. First, we own a house, and then it owns us. Sometimes managing a household becomes a burden. With the burden comes stress comes exhaustion, and eventually can turn into health challenges. In my personal life, I live in a single family home with a very steep driveway. And I have a retired, stubborn husband who believes that a man shovels his own driveway. So every snowstorm, I have a lot of stress and anxiety watching this, thinking something's going to happen. So by reducing the burden, of owning a home that's either too large or requires a lot of upkeep, or shoveling snow, it could free up your time and your energy, to focus on the things that you enjoy. The third reason, health and wellness. In addition to staying socially active and reducing stress, a key component to successful aging is proper nutrition and exercise. Living a sedentary lifestyle can increase the risk of disease, falls, hospitalizations, and living alone, plus the natural changes in our appetite that occur with age, can also cause poor nutrition choices, and that leads to poor health. By living in a community that provides meals, most people find that they experience increased levels of energy, decreased illness, fewer doctor's visits, and just an overall more positive outlook on life. Unfortunately, many people find themselves making a reactive rather than proactive move, meaning that they're already experiencing a decline in health or well-being, and then they have to like quickly come up with something. So that's why step one in this process is all about creating a plan in advance.
Absolutely. And step one in this process is critical. The decision as to where you're going to go, when you're going to move, and how your lifestyle is going to look is better made by you than someone else. And the best time to make these decisions is when you have more choices rather than fewer. So if a family member or a doctor or a well-meaning advisor makes the decision for someone to move, it's typically not well received. And I don't know about you, but I don't like being told what to do. And if I'm going to be told what to do, I want to have some say in it. So truly, step one of the downsizing process of Downsizing Made Easy is creating the plan, and it involves being actively engaged in the research of, the interviewing of, and the decision-making process of where and when you're going to move.
So Dan makes that sound very easy, but you don't know where to start. Well, today's the perfect place. You don't have to move today, tomorrow, this year, even next year. But what's important is to start thinking about what you want to do so you can have control over that decision. And maybe you think you don't want to move at all, and that's fine. Most people don't. But the question to ask yourself is, what if? What if something happens? Do you want to be the one to make that decision, or do you want someone else to make it for you? And if you want to make that decision, then you want to have a plan in place. So as you begin to think about it and look at your options, think about your lifestyle. What level of social interaction are you interested in? Your finances. What is your current health situation? Do you have a long-term health situation occurring? Is transportation important to you? What sort of hobbies or interests do you have or that you'd like to pursue? And then what is necessary to prepare for a future move? So it can be quite confusing when trying to locate and figure out all the options available. And that's one of the reasons clients like working with us, because that's what we do. Jan and I have spent a lot of time coming to understand what are the living options available across this demographic region, across the DMV. And the good news is there are so many options out there. But that can also be the bad news, because there are so many options.
Too many choices.
There's so many choices. So today I'm going to take a moment, probably more than a moment, and walk you through what those options are and just sort of explain the terms. And please know that when I'm finished explaining the type of community, I'm going to give some examples of those communities in this area. We are not promoting those. We're not pushing you to go towards those. It's just that you may have friends that live in those communities, or you may have visited, or you just may be curious. So after I finish describing a term, then I'm going to give you some examples of where, of local.
Oh, Laura, I just wanted to quickly mention while we're on this topic that we do have an upcoming seminar. Let's see, it's in April. Our April seminar is over 55 housing options. And so we will have representatives of various types of senior communities on a panel with us discussing. It's not a salesy thing. They're just going to be talking about the differences between the different types of communities. So if you're interested in that, watch for our announcement on that.
Think of this as just sort of a primer, and then we'll dive deeper
Yeah.
when we have our panel. Well, so the first thing is moving to a senior living community is not the only option for someone who wants to downsize. Oftentimes people just want to move from that larger family home to a more manageable space. And you can look at apartments, condos, townhomes, and there are neighborhoods that are very conducive to aging in place. In fact, there's a movement called the Villages, and it's a grassroots movement of neighbors helping neighbors to age in place. And these exist, there's over 26 of them currently in Montgomery County. For example, Friendship Heights, Bethesda, Chevy Chase, Rockville, all have villages of people, again, neighbors helping neighbors. But let's talk about communities. First, active 55 and over communities. Those are throughout the country. You've probably all heard of them. Sometimes it's over 62 or over 55. So it's an age-restricted community. The options are varied. It could be garden homes, condos, townhomes. Typically, you own your own home, you live independently, and there are access to social activities, and there may be some access to like a medical center or something nearby. Examples in our area would be Leisure World or the Woodlands of Urbana. So then I'm going to talk about the next types of communities. And as I go through it, recognize that oftentimes these are kind of bundled. I'm going to talk about independent, assisted, memory care. So you may visit a community that has all three or some that just have one. But I'm going to start and talk about independent living. Now, with independent living, in order to move into these communities, you must be able to live independently. You have to be able to care for yourself, and you have to, in order to qualify. The residence is yours. You own your own keys. You have your privacy. Come and go as you please. They typically offer some sort of meals as part of your fees, but you can choose whether or not you want to eat there. If you drive, typically there's parking spaces provided. The community typically also offers transportation. They offer cleaning services, exercise, fitness programs. It's kind of like, you know, country club living. Everything is there. Some are pet friendly, but not all. So if pets are important, that's an important question to ask when you're looking. But in terms of independent living, unfortunately, if you wait till a crisis occurs to make a move, this may no longer be an option because, as I mentioned earlier, you have to qualify to move in. So some examples in our area are the Fox Hill Residence, Kensington Park, Modena, and then Cadence and Olney. The next level is assisted living. That's when you start to need a little bit more care. In assisted living, typically it's a monthly fee, more like a rental type model. Assisted livings are all licensed by the state, and there's 3 levels of licensure that they can have, and each level gives you a higher level of care that they can provide. Typically, it's private pay, and it's not covered by insurance. It may be covered if you have a long-term health care plan, but that's something you'd need to look into to make sure. So at assisted living, they're taking care of the activities of daily living, the ADLs. You still have your privacy, you come go as you please. Generally, meals are provided, 3 meals a day. There is no major medical care. It's really just helping you, get through a normal day. Some examples of these in our area would be the Victory Housing, Brightview, there's Brandywine in Potomac, the Seneca in Rockville, and then the Sunrise communities that are throughout our area. Next level is skilled care. And this is what people historically would refer to as a nursing home or a long-term care facility. These are designed for people who need ongoing around-the-clock supervision. They can also be a rehab center. So sometimes someone is injured, they go to the hospital, then they go to a rehab community for their care before they're discharged back to their homes. So they're typically rehab and long-term care because some people will end up staying. They're not age restricted, so you may have people of all different age groups living there. And some examples of skilled care communities would be Carriage Hill, Sacred Heart Home, and the ProMedica skilled nursing communities, again, throughout our region. I'm still going. So now I'm going to talk about memory care. So it's interesting that oftentimes you'll see independent, assisted, and memory care. And that's so that people can stay within the community. But there are standalone memory care communities. And these communities are focused only on people that have level of dementia or some sort of memory impairment. That's their specialty. And I have to say, after visiting a number of them, they're really good if this is what you have. And I've had this in my family. And so if that's an issue that's outstanding in yours, I highly recommend just taking a look. because they're experts at taking care of members of our families that have that situation. There's Artist Senior Living in Potomac and in Olney that is just for memory care. The last type of community, and a lot of people ask us about this, are called Continuing Care Retirement Communities, CCRCs. You'll see that acronym used a lot, or a life plan community. And what a CCRC is it offers the full spectrum of lifestyle and health options on one campus. So everything I've just talked about is all on one campus. Typically, you buy into these communities, you have an upfront investment, but then that's a guarantee of support as you move through the continuum of care. To qualify for a life care contract in these communities, typically you have to move in at the independent level. And they offer everything: meal plans, travel opportunities, fitness programs, social activities, just about everything you could think of. Examples in our area are Riderwood, Ingleside, and Maplewood Park Place. So I know I've just kind of done a core dump of information, and just know that Jan and I are available to meet individually with people, to talk to you about, like, what are your specific needs and where do you think you might fit in this? We have visited these throughout the region. You know, we've seen what they're like. We can give you some of our insights and definitely help you try to get on a path.
Thank you for that, Laura. We actually have quite a large database where we document tours that we've done on communities all around the area. And there's so many new ones popping up that we make it a point to tour at least one a week so that we can be familiar with what's out there. So we have information on far more than the ones Laura has mentioned in these examples. So use us as a resource. So step 2, once you've decided on the lifestyle you choose as you age or as you need increased assistance, the next step is to communicate your desires with the people in your life. Our experience is that moves go much more smoothly and are less stressful when the client's family is informed in advance. Why is this? Well, not only does the client have a say in their decisions, but the family is empowered to make decisions with confidence should they need to. And this is not about asking permission as much as it is about clarifying expectations and getting buy-in. Although it might be a difficult conversation to have, it can make all the difference in the world when it comes time to make a move. So as you can imagine, not all families communicate effectively. Maybe this is just my experience and not yours. But what we found is that clients who make decisions in advance and inform their children or support systems have a much simpler and hassle-free move. If everyone's trying to do what's best and they aren't sure of your wishes, it can create stress for you and for them. Our Downsizing Made Easy guide has forms and tools that can make communicating this information much easier. We give one of these to all of our clients. It's a much more in-depth version of the handout I sent everyone ahead of this seminar. And we meet personally to explain it for planning consultations. And some of our clients are ready to move right away, while others may be a few years out. So this guide helps walk people through the process. Communicating your intentions effectively is all about how you say it. For instance, you could say, "Honey, I just wanted you to know that your father and I have been doing some research and we've toured 3 or 4 senior communities here in the area and that we found to be appealing. And we're planning to sell our home in 6 months and move to Fox Hills community. We just wanted to let you know. Do you have any questions?" And we do have a sample letter that we can show you here on the next slide, but I believe it's also in your handout. So a letter you can use with your family or whatever support system you have that's helping you in the process.
Okay, so now you have gotten to the point where you have done your research, you've figured out where you want to go, you've communicated that to your family, you've got your plan. Typically, you might have to wait a little bit if for a unit to become available where you want to go. But then you get the call and it's time to go. So what happens next? And often this is where people might get a little stuck. The questions come up like, how do I start? Who do I call? The key here is to surround yourself with professionals who are familiar with the complexity of this type of move and know what they're doing. You get to remain in control of all decisions, but you have a support team there to make sure that your move is as hassle-free as possible. And it's actually not too soon to start figuring this out. While you're figuring out where you want to go, you can start talking to the kind of the players in the background that are going to help you get there. Here's a few examples of the relationships that we can confidently recommend as you go forward. And we also project manage the process for you, because the last thing you want is when you're done with all this to be exhausted or sick or just in pain after moving and moving boxes and doing things that physically none of us should probably be doing at this point. So it's really not uncommon for people who are making this downsizing move to get hung up here. And I may be a bit biased, so I'm going to admit this up front, but I would highly recommend your first call be to a realtor like us, who's an expert in senior housing and real estate. Because as you saw in the previous slide, we have a team of vetted providers, such as estate liquidators, move managers, organizers, packers, stagers, handyman, kind of, you name it. We have spent the last 2 years vetting them, meeting with them, working with them to make sure that they have the same work ethic and approach that we expect them to have with our clients. And let's say, for example, you have a unique need that we haven't already figured out. Well, tell us, we'll do the research. We'll figure it out for you. And just knowing that your service providers are familiar with this type of move can be very comforting. And knowing they have someone like us that we can project manage it for you can really take the burden off either adult children or other family members who are assisting. And I like to tell this story because it's a recent story that happened with one of my clients, a woman moving out of her very large family home into a smaller apartment at a community. And we brought in a move manager for her because it was a little complicated to figure out how was she going to get all of the things that were important to her into her new space. So the move manager helped her do a floor plan, figure out what was going to be taken, figure out what was going to be donated, what was going to be sent to children across the country, just sort of how was she going to disperse all those other things. And then the move usually takes 2 days, 1 day to pack everything up, and then the next day to unpack. And so about a day or so before her daughter came, and just like me, she's kind of a fixer. She swooped in to help mom and fix her, and she showed up in her, sneakers and jeans and sweatshirt, ready to pack boxes and hang pictures. And we had to explain that that was done. We got that covered. So instead, mom and daughter got to go out to lunch on the packing day, got to do shopping for a couple items that they wanted for the new place. And then they did it again on move-in day, because what the move manager does is literally move you in. So about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, they came home, opened the door, beds were made, towels in the closet, dishes in the cupboard, pictures hung, and it was done. So both of them came away so appreciative and so excited that instead of having this anticipated stressful few days together, as we all know, when families under stress, we can be a little difficult to be together, they had a great time. And so that can happen, and we can make that happen for you. So that brings you to step 4, Jan.
Yeah, step number 4. So one of the biggest challenges that older adults and their family members have is deciding what to do with personal possessions. The things we call stuff. Everybody has a ton of stuff, especially when you've lived in a home for 30 or 40 or 50 years. It adds up. One of the most common statements we hear is, I'm just too overwhelmed. I don't know where to start. So they want to make a move or need to make a move, but they're truly overwhelmed with the immensity of the task. So naturally, if we're working with them, we can connect them with resources to help them through the process. And as Laura has explained previously, be their project manager. So for those who want to tackle this on their own, we have a few tips to simplify the process. Start small, just 15 minutes a day. Start with a closet or even a cabinet or a drawer. Just one thing at a time. 15 minutes is it. And items typically fall into 5 categories: keep and move, donate, stuff that's of sentimental value that you might want to give to the family, stuff that needs to be trash, or stuff that could be sold. So as you're sorting, go ahead and give away those items you want to donate or give to family members, and label or pack those things you want to keep and move. The best part is that estate liquidators can take care of the rest. They also know what has value and what doesn't. So if in doubt, let them help you decide. Speaking of estate sales, most people think estate sales happen when someone dies. They've passed away and their house is left and their family has an estate sale. That's not necessarily true. Most estate sales occur while the person is still living and they've made the decision to downsize. An estate sale or an auction is generally the best solution in most cases when someone is downsizing and moving to a smaller place. Naturally, this is someone we have as a trusted resource and can help connect you with the right people for the job. So remember, the goal is to simplify. Garage sales are just exhausting, and they're rarely as profitable as estate sales or auctions, even after you pay the commissions.
Okay, this is my favorite step, step 5. Sorry. So you've made your move, you're settling into your new place, and it's time to reflect and celebrate. You've simplified your life, you've created the space and time to do more of what you enjoy. You know, maybe it's time to pick up that hobby that you didn't have time to enjoy before, or start volunteering someplace that where you can feel like you make a difference. But recognize that it may take some time to adjust, and be patient with yourself. You know, just like there are the 3 primary reasons people move, there are 3 key factors that are correlated with a successful adjustment to a new lifestyle. First is your level of optimism. Kind of as we all know, if you think something's going to be great, it is. And conversely, if you think it's going to be a negative experience, you kind of have set yourself up that it will be. So stay positive. You have made your plan. You've stayed in control. These are decisions. This is where you want to be. Even though you might be a little tired, stay positive. Also have a support network. You know, having people around you that care about you is key. You know, your friends, your family, you have us, the support of possibly the community where you're moving into. Recognize that there are people there to help, and just ask for it if you need it. The level of activity is the third one. Staying involved in the process and then embracing all the new options will help you adjust to your new lifestyle. You know, as you celebrate your move, remember that you may also be adjusting emotionally to the change in scenery. You know, paying attention to how you feel is very important. And should you feel like this is really just not going the way you had hoped, and you might need additional support, reach out to a healthcare provider. Regardless of our age, moving is one of those top 10 critical stress factors. So if you couple that with moving out of your house where you lived for 20, 30, 40 years, whatever, it's really natural to have, you know, some serious emotions going on, a mixture. So to stay healthy, both physically and emotionally, you know, it's critical to stay well rested, hydrated, eat right. And my personal favorite is talk. Talk about how you're feeling. You may want to keep a journal or a notebook nearby to write down your thoughts and the things you want to remember, that because so much is going on, just so you can keep focused. But overall, celebrate. You've done it. You've gotten through this move, and ideally into a situation that you're going to be so much more comfortable in and happy in. You did it.
So let's review the 5 steps to downsizing made easy. Step 1, create a plan. Step 2, communicate with your family and friends. Step 3, surround yourself with professionals. Step 4, deal with your stuff. And step 5, celebrate. So we'd like to open the floor now for questions from anyone who might have any, or comments.
I have a question. If you're downsizing and it's like a couple downsizing and you're going through the process together, how do you go about deciding? I mean, people have different opinions on what's a disposable and what's a keepsake. What might be something that's important to one person might not be to the other. So how do you kind of approach situations like that, where there might be a little bit of conflict with deciding what items to take with you and maybe what items to maybe give away or leave or to donate?
Now, that's a great question. Remember when I was saying that you can have like stacks of things, like what you want to keep, what you want to give to family, what you want to donate or sell? I would have another stack for undecided, you know, and
Okay.
then maybe, you know, when you get through to closer to the end, the two of you can sit down again and look at that stack and say, okay, now, do we really need to keep this? So it's a sensitive situation, certainly. So family dynamics definitely will come into play there.
I always look at it from 2 ways. One is, I love Jen's idea, just kind of, if it's emotionally charged, just put it aside.
Yeah.
Focus on the things that you can make decisions about, and then sit together and go through it. Because part of it might be space limitations. You know, like you don't need 6 sets of china, but somebody might be really attached to someone's. And just sort of my philosophy in life with couples is, who does it mean more to? Like if it's really, really means more to the person that has to have this, then we'll find a way to take it with you and find a place, a home for it. Because there's a lot of other things going on in the stress of the downsizing, and you don't want to have an overlay of something that, so what it takes up some cupboard space for a little while. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
And you know what some people do is, I know it's hard to believe because they're downsizing, but some will rent a storage space and put items like that in there until the time that they are emotionally able to deal with what to do with it. And there are some senior communities who actually offer storage space there as well. Not that that's an ideal way to handle it, but it can avoid conflict, Kathy, I assume you guys are on this call for family members because you're way too young to be thinking about this.
Well, maybe not we're not too far from that 55 plus, Jan. By the time Chris retires from the military in 4 years, we'll be on the high side of the 55 plus.
Okay.
But yes, also for just trying to gather some thoughts for aging parents and things like that.
Yeah, we love presenting this seminar not only to folks who are actually considering downsizing, but also to family members who have parents or other family members that are facing this situation. So if any of you here know of a community that might benefit from this education, certainly let us know. We'd be happy to present it. We do these, well, not Downsizing Made Easy, but we do seminars of various topics of interest to seniors every month. And we do this one a lot because it's so requested. And we have some coming up at actual communities as well. So happy to share this with anyone you think could benefit from it. So our next seminar is, excuse me while I look at my little calendar here, April 20th from 11 to 12, 55 plus senior living options. And it will again be on Zoom. And we'll have a panel of people from different communities to talk about what they have to offer. It won't be, like I said before, salesy at all. It's just informational. And then if you guys could also take a moment to complete the evaluation that Jesse has put in the chat. What else do we have?
Really appreciate any and all of your feedback on how we can do this better, what you liked, what you didn't like, maybe an area that we should talk more deeply about, or maybe I talked too much about something. Whatever, we'd be greatly appreciate for that.
Yeah, and we'll be back in person in May. We started to do it in person in January, and that was when Omicron hit, and we thought, maybe we better stay on Zoom for a little while, but I think things are opening up more. So starting in May, we will be in person at various locations. So capitalseniorsolutions.com, on our seminars and resources page, there's a video library and a list of upcoming seminars if you want to stay in touch. So, well, if there aren't any more questions, thank you again for joining us. We really appreciate it. And if we can ever be of help, don't hesitate to reach out. Our contact information is going to be in the chat in just a moment. capitalseniorsolutions.com. Renee, did you have a question or a comment?
No, just wanted to, I didn't comment earlier, so I just want to pop on and say thanks. This is super helpful for us.
Yeah, thank you for joining. Appreciate it.
Thanks for being here, Renee. Appreciate it.
All right, everybody. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, is it just us?
That was
Stop
short and
recording.
sweet.
Stop record.
Okay, so
Stop record.